Violence against Palestinians in the West Bank is reaching highs that haven't been seen in years.
Israelis, both settlers and the military, act with impunity when it comes to the Palestinians who have no rights, or at least no rights that are actually enforceable.
Vigilante-style settler attacks there have doubled from last year. UN figures show that earlier this year, there were on average 3 incidents per day in the West Bank. Since October 7th, that's jumped to 7 per day. At least 8 Palestinians, including 1 child, have been killed in settler attacks since that date.
Part of the rage that many Israelis feel, quite understandably, about October 7th is being taken out by settlers on Palestinian civilians in the West Bank. We've seen settler militias or gangs, whatever word you want to use, attacking Palestinian farmers.
Israelis in the West Bank are called settlers because they live in the Palestinian territory illegally, according to international law. About 700,000 Israeli settlers live alongside 3 million Palestinians. In a statement to CBC News, the Israel Defense Force said if settlers attack Palestinians, then Israeli police or soldiers are required to stop it and investigate. They said there are repercussions for those who don't.
They'll be reviewed, but the actual consequences that any Israeli soldier would face, a slap on the wrist would be saying too much.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has encouraged civilians to arm themselves, and Israel's national security minister said his office is purchasing 10,000 rifles to arm civilians, including settlers in the West Bank. But by far, most Palestinian deaths in the West Bank this past month have been linked to Israeli forces. At least 172 killings, including 46 children. Many deaths have happened during clashes with the IDF, at protests, and at raids. The UN spoke out after Israeli forces killed nearly 20 Palestinians in the West Bank in a single day.
So appeal as a matter of urgency for Israeli authorities to take immediate measures, to take steps to ensure the protection of Palestinians in the West Bank.
Some Palestinians are so frightened or fed up with harassment that they're leaving their homes. The UN says over 900 Palestinians in the West Bank have been displaced.
I know from personal friends of mine who live in the northern West Bank, they received leaflets in Arabic signed by Israeli officers threatening them of being displaced to Jordan in the future. The rhetoric that we have been seeing and hearing from several Israeli officers, we're talking about a language that not only dehumanizes Palestinians, we're also talking about genocidal language, talking about the full displacement and dispossession of Palestinians.
Palestinian anger is boiling over. A New York Times report says there have been over 550 Palestinian attacks on Israelis in the West Bank since October 7th. That's according to Israeli officials. The UN says 3 Israelis in the West Bank have been killed in attacks by Palestinians. Some say the escalations in violence are encouraging some Palestinians in the West Bank to support Hamas, or at the very least, an armed uprising.
In a situation of no hope, under military occupation, violence is one of the few things that's actually on offer, and I think that's a tragic situation. And that is certainly not to defend that violence at all, but I think understanding when you're in a situation of no hope, the one person who is claiming to fight back on your behalf, that starts to become more attractive.